Hello.
Hi.
I think I did very well to muster up that hello
Mm.
from where the conversation will go next, which is everyone is tired. But I tried to because I really want to make another one of those hello clips at some point.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
don't want one of them to just be hi, because
No, but you could have gone. Oh.
it would have been like a nice little bassy
It'd been at
interlude.
like a nice track of
Hmm.
our moods over
Yeah, that's
17
true.
episodes.
Episode 17, everyone. Welcome to episode 17 of That'll Be the Tism, which is a podcast for late diagnosed and discovered neurodivergent. No, so close. Late diagnosed and discovered ADHD and or autistic and autistic and ADHD adults.
Mm.
I was really close, but then I got
You were.
excited at how close I was to getting it
Yeah.
right and then messed it up.
I pointed it out and then you
Yeah.
realised and then that was
But that's what
what
we are.
happened.
That's what we are. That's who we are. That's what we're doing. And this week we are spoonless.
Mm.
Yay!
We're about due a spoonless episode.
But it's only three since we've had one.
Mm. Is
So that
it?
is, yeah, because Trish was 14.
13.
Was Trish 13? Was 13
Mm.
spoonless?
I don't know.
Oh, anyway, maybe. But this week has been a time, and we even ummed and ahed about missing a week and doing it next week.
Mm.
So you should be grateful for this podcast existing.
Yes, and for anybody who's a new listener that hasn't listened to our other episode, a spoonless episode is when we can't be bothered.
No.
And they're not usually like this.
It's not because we can't be bothered. It's when we have no energy or low energy, low
Hmm.
spoons. For the spoon theory, which we've talked about previous, we have both used up all of our spoons of energy in the day slash week
Hmm.
and have none to record a podcast. And it's quite late today because I've had car-based issues. Um, and so yeah, we decided to scrap. We don't do the rave, we don't do the structure really, but we've got a couple of ideas of what we're going to talk about. Anyway, so how have you been, Claire? What's your week been like? Fortnight?
Well, the reason for why I have no spoons or limited spoons is because I have had a change of routine this week because my husband has been on nights. So it's just been me in the house on a night on my own,
With the dog.
um, with the dog, thankfully, because otherwise I don't know who I would have spoken to. And being responsible for myself and for the dog and everything for a week. It makes it sound like I do nothing for myself, but my husband does a lot of the cooking, well, all of the cooking pretty much because I struggle with knowing what to have and how long to do things for, following instructions and things like that. So he does a lot of that. So it was getting to like 7 or 8 o'clock last week, and I'd not had anything to eat because I'd not thought about it, first of all, because of the interoception thing. And that also happened with drinking last week, drinking liquids, not alcohol. So I just didn't feel great because I wasn't eating great and not drinking a lot of liquids at all, which led to headaches towards the end of the week. I've not slept very well because it's like you're used to having somebody next to you. As much as it should be a lot easier because there's no snoring there. Um, just me and the dog, but then when Bernie needs to be on somebody most of the time, especially this time of year because she gets cold. And usually sort of she'll share, but she was on me most of the time for the past week. So it's
Mm.
nothing massive that's caused me to floop a bit today, but it's
I don't know. I think it's a reasonable difference because it doesn't happen all that often, does it? That you
no,
go a
it
full week.
doesn't. And just as I'm sort of getting used to it, it's over
Mm.
and he's back onto his normal shifts again. But equally for that week, even in terms of what I watch on the television or whatever, I don't tend to watch stuff on my own. It's stuff that we watch together.
Yeah.
Although I did watch something which we're going to speak about shortly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And knowing what to do. And I was thinking about this, and I think it's like an aspect of like you can get overstimulated, but you can also be understimulated. And there was an element of that as well, because as much as I had the dog to talk to and I had the TV to myself and what have you, I didn't know what to do with that time and space to myself.
I was several times going to mention the crochet.
Well, yes, because I told you this. I think I thought the problem with my crochet for my prototype for Emma's wedding, the scarf again that I am crocheting,
Yep.
I was doing it in grey so that I could see it, and I was getting a bit bored, and I thought it was because of the colour.
Yeah.
And so I bought some multicoloured wool, and that's sat to the side in my office currently.
Yes.
So I did think about that, but then it relies on Burn being settled on a night so that I can do it. And she was mostly, but yeah, I probably should have done that. It's the same as when I go on holiday and I have every intention of reading books and then I don't read books.
Yeah, I've been meaning to, and I'm 9 rows away from finishing my temperature blanket. I
Oh,
don't know
cool.
if you know that I'm that close, but because I'm
No?
on 9 rows from the end of finishing my temperature blanket, which I'm going to do before I get onto the wedding crafts, which are actually increasing in number, but never mind. I'm going to finish this, but because it's a huge project, which is it's a 2024 temperature blanket, so that is 366 days because it was a leap year plus 11 month separators because I've done a month separation in purple for each at the end of each month. So that's 377 rows of crochet, and it's probably the biggest thing I've ever finished when I get it finished. And finishing things in ADHD don't really go very well together.
Um,
So I've got this whole identity crisis about finishing it. And so my fiance is under strict instructions when I mention crochet to try and hold me at gunpoint until I actually start it so that I'll finish that project and then can get on to all the other ones that I have lined up for wedding stuff since I was going to say we're running out of time, but I mean, we've still got 11 months.
yes.
So we're not quite running out of time yet, but still.
No.
Mm.
So you this week have
Oh,
um
I've started titration for ADHD meds. Woo! It's
ooh,
something that I've been waiting to do since approximately June 2021, which is a long time. Um, when I got my ADHD diagnosis, which was in August 24, they said that I should be titrating between 6 to 9 months from then. And then I rang them in August this year to say, hello, why haven't I had my meds yet? And they said, oh, we're waiting for information from your GP. Anyway, it's been a bit of a nightmare getting hold of the meds. And then, when you get to something that's been building up for so long, and meds, I know that it's not a magic wand and it's not like you start taking medication and everything's brilliant.
mm,
In my head, it was like, this is it then. I've got my meds, bish, bash, bosh. But it's really important to, if you are starting medication for ADHD or for anything, but for ADHD specifically in this instance, to remember that it is the start of another journey. And I'm on day 4 of my meds and they're not agreeing with me. And it's really, really frustrating and disheartening. And it's not very nice. I'm not liking it because I've spent so long getting my head around how my neurodivergence impacts me, learning about how it impacts me, being really self-aware, knowing my triggers, knowing how I function, knowing my coping strategies. Everything is all very controlled for the most part, and I'm able to go easy on myself when things slip because I know why and I understand why. And it's like, and this is going to sound really dramatic, it's like all of a sudden I've got someone else's brain. I don't know how I'm going to react to things. I'm really tired. Well, at the end of the day, I've been crashing, I've been falling asleep, but I've been so angry that it's annoying how angry I've been. And because I'm frustrated at the fact that I'm angry, I'm getting more angry. It's just like a spiral of rage and of all of the things that because obviously being autistic, I have planned through the many possibilities for what might happen when I start taking meds. And rage wasn't one of the things that I'd expected or factored in. And I think what's happening is that I'm, because of the lack of control over what happens with the meds, I'm trying to find control in other areas. But then the tiny things that are outside of my control or that go wrong for what I expect to happen are frustrating me a lot more because I'm trying to just keep control over certain things. Like this morning, the jug that I make porridge in for my son doesn't go in the dishwasher because I don't, we wash it. So when I've made the porridge for my son on a morning, I fill it up with water because dried oats are like the worst thing in the world to
Mhm.
clean off anything. I fill it with water, put it in the sink, and wash it later on in the day. But it had ended up being emptied and put in the dishwasher. So this morning I went to get the porridge bowl, which wasn't in the sink. So I was like, okay, that's been sorted. And it was in the dishwasher with dried on oats on from yesterday. And then I had to clean that. And that was just too much. And little things like that, that normally I would be just like, this is a misunderstanding and how frustrating. Yeah, things are getting to me a lot more. And I think that on top of the unknown and the trying to keep control of things, I'm overthinking, I'm overanalyzing the differences. Every time something happens, I'm thinking, right now, how am I reacting to that? I'm not able to let myself just go with it. And I know that
Mhm.
that's autism,
Mhm.
but it's making the adjustment. Like people have asked me yesterday what the benefit of taking the meds have been. And for me at the moment, I don't know because I'm overanalyzing everything to the point at which it's frustrating. And I sat yesterday, I went to a wellness retreat, which was really lovely in Chesterfield. And I noticed that I was sat still, which is unusual for me because normally I'm fidgeting. And then I noticed when I started fidgeting again and they started wearing off. So I was sat still comfortably, which is unusual. And I noticed that my hyperfocus has been different, but I'm just like a wound up coil. And I just feel like, how can I go with it when I can't just go with it because of my autism? I can't just let it happen as it happens. And I'm just struggling to find the balance at the moment. It's really frustrating me because I would like just to be through this next few weeks to find some medication that helps and that doesn't make me annoyed because I'm out of control and I don't know what's going to happen. And because I don't know what's going to happen, I'm transitioning to a new routine. I need to take the meds. I had to change when I have my breakfast on school run so that I'm having my breakfast before the school run instead of after. So there's a lot of change that I don't like. There's a lot of unknown that I don't like. There's a lot out of my control that I don't like. And it's making me angry. And I don't like that because I'm not like anyone that knows me. I'm not an angry person. I don't get annoyed. I'm very reasonable in my relationship and with my friends and my family. And at the moment, like I'd considered so much about how it could impact my work going on to meds and how I would be able to show up for clients, which I think has gone okay today when I've been coaching, and how it would impact my son because I was worried about the sensory elements, which I think have been slightly impacted, but not overly, apart from I just spiked my elbow with a crumb just as we started recording. But I hadn't considered how it would impact my fiance, and he is the person at the moment that I think it's impacting the most apart from myself. And that makes sense because he lives with me and has to cope with my being me most of the time. That sounds harsh. Normally, it's not difficult to cope with me, I don't think. Sometimes, maybe. But at the moment, I know that if the shoe was on the other foot, I would be finding it very difficult. and I'm kind of putting the way that I would react to the way I'm being.
Oh.
I'm projecting that, and then RSD, and yeah. And so it's not a fun time to be me at the moment, and I've got to do the first feedback form tomorrow, and then my dose will increase on Friday morning to 20 milligrams, and I'm hoping that that helps rather than makes it worse. Because the idea with titration is that because they don't know what dose people want, so they have to start you off low and then increase it gradually. But the way it often works is that it gets worse and then it gets better and then it gets worse again and then they go back to the dose at which it was better. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a balancing act and it's different for everyone. And maybe it's the medication I'm taking, which is Medicanet XL, which is a methylphenidate. But the XL is a slow release one. And a lot of people have a slow release tablet and then they have a top up in the afternoon, which I definitely, because I've been so sleepy around tea time. There's been a couple of times I've had to drive, like tonight, I had to drive back from the garage and I got in the car and I was just like, this is fine. There's a
Oh.
big warning on the box saying these tablets may make you drowsy. Be careful, do not operate heavy machinery. But I'm like, I have a line and any later, and I know I wouldn't have been able to, which is why I panicked because the garage bloody took my car to change the brakes. But because the brake discs on my new car needed replacing. So I took him back to the place where I got the car. And they'd forgot to ring me and let me know it was done. But I was starting to panic because I knew I had to drive back for the half-hour drive in the dark, and that any minute I was about to become dangerous. So, yeah, if anyone's interested, I'm doing a daily video journal thing on TikTok and on Instagram and Facebook at my Emma Sales Coaching account. We did share the first video I put onto the Tism page, but I am trying to do a daily journal, which I hope to be able to do until I'm fully titrated. Sounds a bit weird, but until I've either found a medication that works and isn't sending me up the wall, or I've decided that it's not for me. And whichever way that falls, I'm hoping to document the whole thing. And then I get worried about documenting it in case it puts people off trying it, because it's really important to try it. But
Think everybody's different, aren't
yeah,
they?
yeah,
And some people go on it and they're just like, no, it's not helped me, and then they're better off without it because they know their own brains or it has other effects. It's the same as any medication, isn't it? No medication's going to work in the same way for everybody.
no. And this is
But the
so
thing that I was just thinking, and I don't know whether there's anything to this, but like in terms of like overwhelm, which is a big thing when you're autistic and you can become overwhelmed quite easily, my overwhelm would be just like crying and having that sort of meltdown. But perhaps it's your overwhelm is showing in the anger and the outburst, which mine sometimes does with my husband. Like if I'm having a day where I've got minimal spoons to like filter what I'm thinking before it comes out of my mouth, I'll snap or I'll. So is it potentially in part the unmasking of the autism side of things? I know you said I don't usually have rage, but it's not, in my mind, it's not so much rage, it's just all that feeling that you've got inside you,
yeah.
and it's the way that that's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you earlier, I feel like I just need to really cry.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a massive cry, and I've not been able to cry. I've been
Mm.
trying to set myself off. I put my crying playlist on in the car earlier, and I've been trying to think about the things that would normally make me emotional, and I just haven't been able to. I've had the odd tear, but for me, and usually a very outwardly emotional person,
Mm.
to find it difficult to cry is just adding it's adding to the
Yeah,
unfamiliarity and the uncertainty, and it's like how if my emotions aren't even processing as they normally would, if I'm not able to get upset, then da da da. And because of black and white thinking, it's like this is forever. It's not
you
the
are
case.
getting upset though in a different way. I don't know whether
Yeah.
this is just because it's I'm an outsider and I'm not in your brain, but that's how, from what you said, that's how I see it. You're not getting upset in a way that you're crying, but you are getting upset in a way that you're lashing out and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and shouting.
I
So what I would say is if you think of it as being overwhelmed, if you were overwhelmed or if somebody came to you and they were overwhelmed, how would you tell them to overcome that? And maybe that's a, don't
yeah,
think of it as I need to cry, think of it as I need to
yeah.
get my rage out, go and like
And
smash some plates in like the forest or something.
yeah, I mean I need to do a I've got a control workbook to help me break down what I can do about it and how I can react. But at the minute I'm still in the everything is new and I don't like it
Mm,
phase. And I'm getting closer to the breaking it down and sorting it out and working the strategy
mm,
part of it. So maybe tomorrow, but it's just difficult to get into the right headspace to think about it. And I have to just allow myself the time to be
yeah, so
annoyed and to just let the frustration happen and
mm,
transition into whatever this is going to feel like.
mm,
But yeah, I'm hoping that tomorrow morning I'll have a bit more headspace to properly delve into it a little bit from a practical point of view. And I know it will help. It's just, I'm just too annoyed. I'm too annoyed to start. I'm just really, yeah, I'm really frustrated. I think I probably could do with going out for a walk tomorrow if it stops raining. I can't walk in the rain because then my glasses will get wet.
that's the
Mm.
thing though, when you're overwhelmed, sometimes nothing will help
Yeah.
with that except for it just to get out of your
Yeah.
system. However, it's gonna like a balloon, just letting a little bit out at a time.
It's
It's really
still
early days, but
really
you
new and I just need to, yeah.
you're already recognizing though that you know that that's why
Yeah.
it is. So that's a big thing in itself.
Yeah, I've got the advantage in that I am aware of why this stuff's happening, but it is still very frustrating. But I'm going to be filling in the form and sending it to my prescriber tomorrow so that if there is any kind of red flags being raised by the level of anger, they will be aware and they'll be able to help and make suggestions for what
Mm,
we can do going forward. So, um, yeah,
yeah.
it is. It's quite
But we'll be
interesting.
able to
It'll
see
be
how you
fun.
go in a couple of weeks, won't we?
Yeah, I'll be talking about it next time.
Well, it'll
Um,
be nearly my Tismversary next time as well.
yeah, we'll be having a party at the time.
Oh yeah,
We'll be having a party. We need to have a party in a couple of weeks for that.
you
Bring our
need to.
party hats and cake. We might have some cake.
Definitely some
Do some
cheese.
cake. Because I remember there was a TikTok a while ago where someone was like announcing their diagnosis with a cake, and he got a
Yeah,
little bit envious. But we can have a cake for the tismversary.
yeah, but it won't be telling me anything, will it?
Do you want me to make you a three-tier chocolate cake with a strawberry cake hidden in the middle? Because I've done that
No,
this past fortnight as well.
no, no. I don't need you to do that. That's fine.
Well, I'm grateful that you don't, because it was a pain in the bum, but I was still quite proud of having done it. So,
Hmm.
mm,
You're allowed to be proud, and you're also allowed to have been
never do it
never
again.
want to do it again. Like running a marathon, which is something that I'm not going to ever do.
I
But
did
I
a
imagine once you've
5K.
done it, you either go, "Oh, that was lovely. I want to do some more."
Yeah, I did a 5K once. It was on my bucket list. I wanted to try a 5K at some point in my life, and I did one in 2014. I did a colour one, and
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I'll never do another one. But, at least I've done it.
Mm.
I have the t-shirt somewhere that's bright orange because it had paint chucked on it. Um, but yeah. Anyway,
Hitler.
Hitler. Yeah. Should we talk about Hitler for a bit, Claire?
So we said before we started this episode, it was going to be what was it, Moaning and Hitler?
Breakdowns, and Hitler.
Oh yeah, nervous breakdowns and Hitler.
Mm,
That's what this episode's going to be
I think
called
that
if
is.
this script doesn't come up with any alternatives. Whilst we're on that topic, Susan Whatnot.
Zoos.
Yes.
Susan Whatnot. The name of the last episode was Zoos and Whatnot. And because we forgot about where Gary came from the episode before,
Yeah.
when I listened to the podcast, because we do both listen to it, don't we, after we've put
Hmm.
it live, just to check that we're all right with it and we don't want to instantly remove it from all of the places. And I sent Claire a voice note saying zoos, it was zoos, not Susan. It was zoos and whatnot when we were talking about something. Lemurs, maybe? Yeah, we were talking about the lemurs and whether they were going to emulate the lemur season in zoos and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
Susan, there we go.
Susan, Susan.
But in the last episode, also, you may have noticed that near the beginning, I say, next time when we talk about Hitler,
No.
and then shortly after that, Claire said, do you want to tell everyone why we're talking about Hitler? And it was very, very cleverly edited for me to just be saying, nope. And that was quite an amusing moment in the last podcast. So if you haven't heard it, then go and listen.
Yeah. We
Um,
just decided because we did have a bit of a ramble about it, didn't we? And then I was like, what if we just cut it do it so it just goes, no.
we are
So Claire.
sometimes we do like to think that we're clever, and
Mm,
it sometimes pays off and is amusing to listen to, I
mm,
think. And we both chuckled when we listened to it back. So,
yeah.
if
I've
anyone
laughed
noticed
every
it,
time I've
then
laughed every time I've heard it.
you're welcome. But this is why we were going to talk about Hitler. Well, we weren't, but we'd seen that there was a new documentary about Hitler, and you'd seen a little bit of it, and I hadn't seen any of it. And so we decided to watch it and then talk about it because it makes sense, really, for us to have seen
Mm.
something before we start having a conversation about it.
Well, yeah.
And that's what we've done. We've both watched it. We did
Yeah.
very well, I think, to follow through with our action steps because I'm
Mm.
not very good at doing that. And so we
Well,
watched it. It's Hitler.
it's in
What's the
DNA, wasn't
name? What's the name of the documentary?
it? It was on
What's
Channel
the
4, wasn't it?
mystery? Yes, it's definitely Channel 4. Um,
Hitler's DNA, Blueprint of a Dictator.
there we go. That is the name of the documentary. It is a two-part documentary. Each episode is approximately 45 minutes long. And I thought it was quite interesting. It's had a very mixed reaction from everywhere, I think.
I haven't
Have,
really seen
have
anybody
you
say
not?
anything,
See,
no.
I've I didn't go into it because, as you know, I don't really read things when people have opinions because I don't want to get involved. But I've seen very mixed reactions because there's still a lot of theorizing, and they wouldn't have been able to make a documentary about it if it was all crap, or at least I would imagine
No, I
them.
don't.
But yeah, it's most probably Hitler's DNA, and it's most probably the answer to a lot of things, or the start of an answer, or at least thinking about it. What I found really interesting was that there was a guy in there called William Fitzgerald who had written books about this
Mm-hmm.
subject with Hitler and potential neurodivergence and neurodevelopmental stuff quite a long time ago based on behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was really chuffed, wasn't he, that the science from this analyzing of Hitler's DNA that was found on this blood that was on a sofa in the room where he died, he was quite chuffed that his what he'd written was being kind of backed up. But essentially, they've analysed some of Hitler's DNA, and he was probably autistic, and he was probably ADHD, and he was
Well,
probably a
yeah.
psychopath.
It's
And
sort of that's the reason why we're not just talking about Hitler because we're like fans of Hitler.
we're
Sure.
not fans of Hitler.
No. Well, I saw it because there was a headline that was like Hitler was probably ADHD,
Yeah.
along with some other things that
Mm.
are sort of well-known things about, well, propaganda about Hitler at the time that's now they've now been able to back up with his DNA, shall we say.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about genitals today.
We're not talking about genitals today. Although I have had the
Um,
little tune in my head since I watched it,
mm,
the little Hitler song that the little Hitler song, that sounds bad, doesn't it?
mm.
But yeah, it's interesting because that was my first ever phone ringtone on a Segway. My first ever phone ringtone was doo 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 doo
Wow, I thought
doo.
you meant like the version with the lyrics, and I was like, we
No,
just said we're not fans of Hitler.
no,
What are you doing?
it was mocking him, wasn't it? But anyway, it
Yeah.
just that little tune was my first ever phone ringtone when I had my orange Bosch phone when I was 16. There you go. And I've never been able to find it because it was one of the best things about that phone. But anyway, um,
You
so
could just record yourself doing
I
it.
could, and then
Um,
nowadays the technology is there. I wouldn't have to pay £2.50 for a ringtone like back in the day. Anyway,
mm. So it was his DNA, wasn't it, that they went through and
mm,
try and prove all these different things that people did know about him. And I'd never heard about the idea that he might be ADHD before. But
yeah,
as you say, there was a person that had written a book about it.
yeah.
And there is evidence, although they said he was in the top 1% for autism, I can't remember what they said about ADHD.
It was like mid. So what they did was they showed these charts of the likelihood of that condition being present with the genome like it was. And the higher up on the chart, the more likely.
Hmm.
ADHD was midway. It was reasonably high, but not really, really high. But then a lot of his school reports and stuff, which is what this guy had used to analyze when he did the book, suggested that he might have been a stereotypically ADHD child,
Hmm.
but potentially more autistic as well. The thing that I was really grateful for was that it was ADHD and then autism, and then it was, and I can't remember the term they used, but essentially psychopathy,
Hmm.
where he was like top 0.1% or something like that, that was very extreme, which because there was a guy on the documentary that was like, I'm just worried about putting this out and everyone saying autistic people are all Hitler, which we don't want because obviously we're not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, well, I think it's a little bit of a concern, including it in the podcast, in that we're like not defending Hitler, but it's
The
interesting,
thing is, the facts are it's indefensible.
indefensible.
It is undefendable
Yeah,
what happened. And also this, although the genes were there and there's a potential that he was ADHD, there's still an element of how you brought up and how like you
yeah,
in our lives, or at least in my life, I can say that I had a supportive family. I had accidentally accommodations at school, which had because of my arthritis, to mean that I had more time in exams and things like that. And I've been given those accommodations that he didn't have, and he didn't have the best upbringing either with his family. And
yeah.
uh,
I would have quite liked to see a narcissistic personality disorder graph as well, because obviously that's something that can contribute. There's a lot of other conditions, like neurological conditions, that can obviously negatively impact someone's behavior. And I was worried, like when the documentary started and it did those two things, and then it did something physical, and then came back to the, I can't remember, was it admissible behavior or something that it said when it was the psychopathy one, essentially. But I was very relieved that they hadn't just left it with just ADHD and autism, because
mm,
that's not going to be the reason. And that's why when I said we're not defending Hitler, it's like we're definitely not defending Hitler, because at the end of the day, they're like arseholes in every neurotype, and there are people in every neurotype who
mhm,
are not morally just and who have other issues. And as you said, like his traumatic upbringing and all that stuff would have impacted, but also, um, yeah, there would have been other parts of his and the physical side of things that they discovered about a chromosomal deficiency that impacted sexual organs, and it would have impacted sexual desire and things. And like my fiance said, it's like your typical, I say your typical, that sounds harsh because it's Hitler and he definitely wasn't typical in any way, but the man who is making up for where he is lacking
mhm,
by XYZ. And because of his other like predetermined things, or suspected now predetermined conditions, that making up for where he was lacking involved killing hundreds of thousands of people, which was horrific. And it is interesting to look at the reasoning and the explanation. And it's kind of like another true crime documentary, isn't it? Just
Mm.
heightened to another level. And my fiance has mentioned there was like a big World War II documentary series in the 70s, and I can't remember what it was called, but it's like 26 hours long. So now I literally haven't ever seen anything about World War II. I've never watched any documentaries, I've never read anything, I've never paid attention to anything about it. Like modern history has never been something that I've really looked into or paid attention to. So I know very little about that era, and it's quite bizarre because like my gran was in the WAF and um she used to every now and then talk about that. Not very much, obviously, because it was quite traumatic, but like I knew that she was there, it had come into conversation, but
Mhm.
it's like I've closed that off as something that I wanted to look into. I did quite a lot when I was in brownies and guides and stuff, and my grandparents ran a British Legion, and but I just haven't ever paid attention to the history. So it's kind of made me want to find out more about how crap it was, really, which I knew,
Mm.
obviously I
It,
know that what everyone knows, but
yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things that,
I think it's one of those things that like you hear about it, don't you? But it's, and I don't know whether this is a Tism thing or whether it's something that everybody feels, but it's a bit abstract because you weren't there. So you
yeah,
can hear people's stories about it, but it's like it can almost become like when you watch EastEnders or something like that, that you're hearing all these stories, but you cannot, it's almost not easy to pretend that it wasn't real, but like it seems so unreal that there
yeah,
was a world war within the past 100 years, and
yeah,
all of these countries were involved in it. Um, and that, all that time ago had all these weapons and planes, and it doesn't seem like
yeah. I
they
mean,
all
one of
seem like
the,
really modern things.
yeah, it's part of history, but it doesn't, like we'd learned a lot about history in school, but we didn't really learn much about modern history. And that's kind of, I know I didn't do history past year nine, but we didn't learn about World War II when I was at school. I don't know whether it was just too, but yeah, I mean, we might have in primary school, but I can't really remember much about it.
I mean, you do, but they obviously don't want to scare you by going into all the intricacies of it because I think it's just too much for your little
Mm.
brain to comprehend that
But the
somebody could
interesting,
be like that.
yeah, one of the big interesting things for me with what they were talking about was the that he probably would have, if he'd have been not the person doing the killing, he probably would have been in the group of people that would have been
Oh yeah, he
put
would
in the
have been
gas
one of the ones.
chambers,
Yeah.
because they were talking about how he had these specific places that were um mental institutions back in the day, I guess. There was like a big
Mhm.
house that was converted into a gas chamber where all of the profoundly disabled people were killed. And they said that with his genome as it was, if he
Mhm.
hadn't have been, if the shoe had been on the other foot, he would have fit the criteria for not worth saving, given his genome. And that
Yeah.
really, there's a lot of like ableism, probably. I mean, obviously, Hitler was many things worse than ableist, but also also ableist. There's a lot about his denying his own stuff and like taking that out on other people that he's deemed weak and trying to deny his own weaknesses. And there's a lot that you can read into it.
There is, and I don't think any of it is explainable because it's not.
Not here to
I
talk
don't I,
about
don't-
him,
I don't think
thankfully.
that he was a particularly sound mind, especially when they were talking about how he had a lot of comorbidities. So the doctor was giving him amphetamines and.
I mean, that's what I'm on in it, so
But that's what I thought. Like, did that
mm,
like sort of unmask all of the other bits more?
maybe.
It probably didn't help matters, did it? Probably just made him think that.
Yeah, it might. He was essentially on ADHD meds before ADHD meds existed. I don't know actually when they started giving ADHD meds to kids. I don't know when it was discovered that
Gonna say I don't know when they started giving ADHD meds to Hitler.
no, no, I mean, it's interesting. I'd never thought about it. Um, but yeah,
But I think even in terms of if even if it didn't have that effect on his neurodivergence, he
right,
essentially had
the
um
1930s, vitamins have been used to treat ADHD since 1937. So that's interesting.
yeah. But I think that even if you look at it from, I mean, there were other drugs that he was being given as well, and if you think about it, it's only going to have heightened the psychological issues that he already had.
Yeah, with the other stuff that was going on, they definitely wouldn't have had a 12-week titration process back then.
No, but he was not only that, but he wouldn't have also been on all the other
The other things.
illegal drugs that he was on.
Yes. But yeah, anyway, Hitler documentary,
Yeah, it was
interesting
relevant, we
times.
promise.
It was relevant and
It was interesting, wasn't it? I mean, is it?
yeah, it was interesting. And I mean,
Yeah.
I was happy that I'd watched it. I was glad I watched it.
Hmm.
I am always interested in how this stuff impacts people, and I was just very relieved to see the other things. Although they opened with, well, they didn't. They opened
Hmm.
with, was Hitler secretly Jewish? But then after that was kiboshed. Spoilers, sorry.
Hmm.
Um, they went into ADHD and autism, and I was worried that they wouldn't look at any more neurological stuff, but they did. So I could stop ranting about it.
It was reasonably well balanced, even
Yeah,
in terms of how autism and ADHD were presented. One of
yeah,
the people said something about him being amoral, but then saying that autistic people tend to have a really strong sense of morals and know
yeah.
right from wrong, and
Yes,
they
that's got
have a
to have come
heightened
from.
sense of empathy because they're sort of overcompensating from the fact that you just don't always know.
Yeah,
So it was more like if he was any of these things, it was still not an excuse for what he did. So
which is important.
it took care to make sure
Yeah,
that it wasn't damaging to.
the autistic
Um,
community, which is
mm.
very rarely seen on documentaries, and I'm very grateful for that. Because as I say, I was a little bit worried going into it that that wouldn't happen, and yeah. So that was the Hitler
Mm.
documentary, and that was why we were talking about Hitler this week.
Mm.
And are we going to talk about manatees?
No,
Fair enough.
we can do if you want. I just was trying to like
Emulate the Hitler thing, but with
emulate the hill
manatee.
because we debunked the manatee fact,
It's
didn't we?
frustrating because it was an interesting fact. And actually, when you Google it, the first few things are about how manatees manage their buoyancy through flatulence, um, which is an interesting one. But it's basically the way that it said was that, I mean, manatees are one of the gassiest animals on the planet. They have a very slow metabolism and very large intestines. And a lot of the things on the internet say that they fart when they want to swim down, they fart, and that allows them to swim down and get a meal. But it turns out that actually that's not the case, and they fart at the top because then it's easier to move around. So the thing that I was reading, which is on savethemanatee.org, says that it's a myth that manatees fart to control their buoyancy. So in some cases, after they eat a lot, they get very gassy and they may float on the surface until they release the gas and are able to sink back down. So it's more an inconvenience than an actual controlled thing that they do. And it says that it can cause trouble to researchers who are trying to figure out whether a manatee is ill or injured or whether they just need to fart.
Well, I'd Googled it as well.
Okay, good.
Just while we were speaking to see if I could find out anything interesting. And this one that I found on Fact Animal, I really, really like this sentence. When they get constipated, they sort of float around aimlessly like fart balloons. I love the phrase fart balloons.
Art balloons. Mm.
But like fart balloons. and have in the past needed laxatives to restore buoyancy control.
Oh,
But also, they're related to elephants.
yes, I knew that.
And
In
if I
fact, I
believe
actually already knew. Who'd have thunk?
they can talk.
Manatees.
Yes. Squeals are commonly heard from manatees and sometimes chirps and grunts. That's the same as me, again.
Yeah.
Finding an
Mm.
affinity with manatees.
We are
They,
essentially manatees today.
yeah, they communicate with one another
Oh,
through a range of vocalizations.
oh, that's nice.
These calls are structurally complex. No, that's definitely not like me then. If
That's
you've listened
dead.
to any of our podcasts, you'll know
You all know.
that's not like manatee teeth are continuously replaced.
Just by other animals. Just pull them out. Just pull them out and just stick a leaf in there. Hope for the best.
Uh, Manatees, like elephants, continuously replace their teeth throughout their lives.
Just with things they find on the shore.
Yeah. Well, it says they
Sorry.
ingest a lot of plastic, so maybe.
Maybe they've just got loads of like gold.
Throwing a chip fork in there and
Yeah. Little different coloured shells and stones and pebbles. It could be well interesting, couldn't it?
then the final
Mm.
one was sailors found them too cute.
Okay. Cute. They are, I mean, they are.
Yeah.
I like bigger animals. I tend to find more cute because of their faces. Their faces are often amazing.
This may suggest that anything becomes cute when you spend long enough at sea.
No, I think no. See, I see the cuteness. I got very excited the other night. We've been watching Celebrity Race Across the World,
Mm.
and there was a sloth. One of the teams went on a night tour of the jungle somewhere, and there was a sloth in the wild. And I would cry, like genuinely would cry. I mean, I'm not going to stumble across a sloth in Greater Manchester, but if I just saw a sloth in the wild, I mean, we went to the zoo near London once, not long after I started dating my fiance, and he was talking the other night when we saw this TV show with the sloth on it, and he's like, I genuinely didn't think he'd ever leave the zoo or that particular part. I was stood for ages just watching this sloth and its baby and crying because that was an emotional moment. I get really in awe of animals and their babies,
Hmm.
which is um
I
yeah.
think I probably would be a sloth if I was an animal.
Yeah,
What
definitely I'm
animal,
close to that.
yeah, do you think that you would be?
Yeah, sloth. I've always said elephants and sloths are my spirit animals because they're just slow
Mm.
and clunky. And I think one or the other. I mean, sloths hang, so that seems more effort than just standing. I think I'm probably more inclined to say elephant because then
If sloths had sofas, do you think that they'd use them? Because I think they would. They wouldn't just hang about, would they? They wouldn't waste all that extra energy if they didn't need to.
I don't know, they
If they
might
put some sofas in the jungle or wherever it is that they go,
know the answer to that, to be
I
honest.
think they would use a sofa.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I'm
Do
trying.
you think, listeners, if there's still any of you left at this point, if you think that a sloth would use a sofa,
Let us know.
let us know at that'll be the tism@gmail.com.
Hmm.
Don't let us know anything else about this episode.
You can if you want.
Well, you can. Let us know your thought. No, don't let us know your thoughts about Hitler.
You
That
can
won't
if you want
end
to,
well.
but I don't want anyone that was pro-Hitler to message us. In
No,
fact,
don't do
if there's
that.
anyone pro-Hitler listening, stop listening, please.
Yeah.
We don't want any Nazi listeners, thank you. I would say no offense, but every offense,
It's
and
one of those occasions where it's okay to
it's
cause
okay
offence.
to cause offense. No
Yeah.
Nazis are welcome in our viewer thing, in our listener
Viewership,
audience, whatever.
listenership,
Yeah,
team, tism.
Team Tism. Whoop whoop. Um, yeah, so thank you for listening. I think we're going to leave it there.
I think that's wise.
And then we've we managed to add things in that weren't just Hitler and breakdowns. And if anyone would like to rate us, please rate us on your provider of choice
Mm.
and send us feedback and leave us comments and email us, as Claire said. And all of our socials and everything are available at linktr.ee/. That'll be the Tism. And yeah, thank you for your patience and
Thanks for listening.
for listening.
Yes.
We will be back for a Tism party in 2 weeks.
We'll know what that entails when we do.
Yes, we may at the time of recording. I think
We're
it would be a
making it
nice
up on this.
idea. I think it would be a nice idea if we do like a little like party hat shenanigan cake and stuff and post it on the Tism page. I'm getting all into it.
I thought you were going to say when we have it, we can have a little clips reel. You know, like they do on TV programs when they're like, oh, remember when so and so did this? And then there's examples of all. Just have like a little clips reel of all the times I've been autistic.
Have I told
That
you
would fill
about
the entire episode.
have I told you about my
And
marketing thing that I'm
more.
going to do for December that I haven't started today that I was going to start today and I'm definitely not starting today now.
No.
I'm going to do an exploring neurodivergence for your health. So, I've got my webinars exploring neurodivergence for yourself. When I
Right.
was marketing them in March, there was a typo and I put for your health. And I was like, oh, that's a cracking idea. And so I put a reminder in my calendar for November. And this is Ernie the Elf, who's on screen if anyone's listening and not watching. And I'm going to make him neurodivergent this month. And I'm going to make him some little ear defenders and some little sunglasses. And I'm going to sit him on the toilet with his phone and stuff. Yeah, it's going to be great. So I'm going to do 12 posts.
Do you know what? Everyone's neurodivergent these days.
Don't. No, Claire, we finished the episode. So
I
yeah,
don't believe that.
that's a disclaimer. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing.
So follow along if you want to see
Follow
Emma's,
along. Elf being
if you want to
autistic and
feel more,
ADHD.
what's the word?
Christmassy,
No.
jovial, validated.
You want to recognize yourself in an elf for the first time.
Yourself in an elf. There is an elf in self.
Recognize yourself in an elf.
Anyway, yes, so that's another thing that I'm doing.
Mhm.
I don't know where that came in, but it did. It made sense to me. Anyway, thank you for listening and goodbye for now.
Goodbye.